Welcome to Not Just Ads, the show where B2B brands discover how creator-led content drives pipeline, builds trust, and grows long-term brand equity. Each episode, we speak with business leaders, founders, and creators who are defining their categories. I'm your host, Marcus Sherwin, and this is the creator economy for B2B. Hello and welcome today to Not Just Ads, the creator economy for B2B. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Chris Elsheikhi. Chris has a seasoned background in B2B marketing. Currently, he leads demand gen at Usercentrics. And we're going to get into a conversation today around where demand generation is now in 2026 and what we see, or Chris sees, as the opportunities in the space, the challenges, and where he sees the future for B2B within demand generation. Chris, thanks very much for joining us on the show.
Marcus, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, listen, you've a pretty broad background. I mean, you've worked. I know you mentioned you're off air as well. You're originally from Scotland, but you've worked kind of across the globe. You're currently based in Lisbon. You've worked as VP of Revenue for Spring, and then also where you are now in Usercentrics. Maybe you could just walk us back in terms of how did you get into the space? Was it what was like the kind of motivated you to get into the space and how it all came about?
Yeah. So I think as I reflect on that, the idea has been category creation. So just quickly, maybe walking through like maybe some of the standouts in my career that I feel have been quite notable was 10, maybe 12 years ago now, I was the UK GM for a company called Get, which was the first on-demand taxi app. So Uber had launched, but only in London. So my remit was to try and grow Get in the whole of the UK, which is really exciting, right? I think we all understand that people use phones to book taxis via app. They didn't do that back then. So how do you create this category and get the buy-in? So that was my first taste of sort of like trying to convince the market they needed this product, right? And before they even knew they needed it. And then that was the kind of the birth of creator commerce. So it was an e-commerce platform, not too different to Shopify, way smaller, of course, but the idea of helping e-commerce merchants set up the store. We pivoted into creator commerce, where we enabled lots of creators, millions of creators, to sell merchandise and custom products directly on their social profiles. So we built integrations with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram to help creators natively sell on their platform, and that never been done before. And again, looking at it now, creators are synonymous with selling merch, but back then they weren't. It was how do you help them monetize their audiences? So that was like the next step of category creation, and obviously that's ever present now, and the market's dominated by Shopify, but also creators can sell everything everywhere. And now we talk about Usercentrics, where we are trying to define this category called privacy-led marketing, where, if I can just go a little bit sideways, for the past 3 years, I've been working as a consultant helping startups go to market, and AI has just democratized the way and the volume of contact that we can do to our prospects, right? So what Usercentrics do, what we do there is, first of all, enable our customers to ensure that they're able to capture data responsibly through cookie banners and whatever else. And then using that data, which has been opted in by the customers, to market towards them in a much more responsible and much more effective way. And we're actually seeing that users that have opted in are much more receptive to marketing. So again, it's like, how do we get this deeper level of connection with the customer to open up this space called privacy-led marketing? And that's sort of like what we're pushing right now. So again, it's just the idea of like, how do you create this market and this opportunity before the market really knows it exists?
Yeah. No, it's an exciting space to be in, I imagine. And when you're initially creating the category with Usercentrics, then just so I understand correctly, you're giving an audience an opt-in to share more details so that they can have a better experience, but then a brand can serve them better. Is that correct?
Yeah, and maybe more simply put is we actually own a cookie bot. You might have heard of this before. This is the cookie banners that pop up. So all websites, particularly Europe, have to have a consent management platform. So when the user, web e-commerce visitor or website visitor, whoever visit the site, they need to select what the preferences are, and this is the CMP, consent management platform. the data after that, we enable our customers to use that data responsibly to market to those customers that have opted in. And this is what we're called this is what we're calling privacy-led marketing. And we've got a privacy-led marketing suite of kind of like bolt-on products that help sort of maximize the opportunity that can come from the opt-ins in this banner.
Gotcha. And then with the vertical then that you're in at the moment, then is that mostly from e-commerce, would it be, or would it be B2B?
No, well, it's all sorts really, right? Because in Europe, because of the legislation that's come in, everybody has to have a consent management platform. Yeah, e-commerce is a huge customer base of ours. I think e-commerce, publishers, anybody who's creating content to be consumed. And then there's, I guess, SaaS businesses, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to kind of like convert customers and all that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you make it easier for those companies really to manage the audiences that come through to the website or the marketplace. Once they opt in, they will be able to with your tool, they will be able to kind of give them a specific message and manage and get an oversight in terms of the traffic sizes and stuff that have opted in.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you have a website, the customers that visit that website or the viewers, the audience members that visit that website need to select their preferences. This is the CMP, this is the cookie bot, this is the banner where you select the preferences. Now, from the business's point of side, who own that website, they then have that consent from that customer, your customer, to be able to remarket to or market to in a way that fits. And that's where our privacy-led marketing suite sort of comes in.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. You mentioned as well, you were talking about the earlier days, like when you were in Get and the category creation part, because I think that's really interesting. And I know that it's always a big challenge as well, because you're kind of trying to convince you have the early adopters, but then you're obviously trying to get the others to adapt, and then the laggards that come afterwards. What do you see, like, if you were to look at that in the UK when you were there, and then on to Spring afterwards in another category as well? But I guess there's probably some learnings and there's obviously a skill set and everything as well. But when you look at like somebody, let's say if they want to create a category, what do you think are the fundamentals that they need to really look at in order to have like a solid foundation to do so?
Yeah, so there's always the balance between top of funnel and bottom of funnel. So how do you actually build the brand? But brand can take a long time to actually turn into revenue. So you need to ensure you kind of like have the two mindsets at once. How do you get short-term action that, and at the same time, build that long-term present, turn into action, right? So it's like planting the future, seeds for the future. But what you don't know right now is what are the right seeds to plant, because you're right at the beginning. Okay, particularly for a company like Get, which we just launched. So I think if you want to kind of talk into like the tactics deployed at the bottom of the funnel to get immediate impact, you need to look into partnerships very, very quickly. You need to find people that align. And then you need to try and spend as little as you can to find early adopters that can refer and open up other, depending on the business model, other users into that as well. And then from there, you can create your messaging and your case studies that can feed the brand narrative. And from there, you can begin to grow. So it's a lot of hustle and bustle at the very beginning, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine that it is. But then with for instance, like once you get into that, then how do you look at like kind of leading indicators to see that you're on the right track?
Yes, so you have to look at, and it depends on the business, but the funnel is important, right? So how do you understand if you're doing a big marketing campaign, or an always-on campaign? You need to understand everything from your impressions to your click-throughs to your website visits to your conversions, and there from there. And as best you can, try to use as much UTM tracking as you can. I know attribution is very difficult at this moment in time, but can you use as much UTMs and other sort of links as you can to help you understand what marketing's resonating? And then from there, you can begin to build and expand.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. What do you see are the biggest challenges then in the space at the moment in 2026?
In the privacy-led marketing space?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I sort of mentioned before, so for the past 3 years, I had my own sort of agency where I was working with early stage startups. I was based in Portugal, early stage startups, around about $1 million in revenue, helping them go to market. And what enabled me to be able to build this agency was AI. It completely kicked down the door to B2B outreach. You know, everything from lead sourcing to lead enrichment to specifications to delivery. It's open, right? And then you've got LinkedIn, you've got email. So the wave of opportunity to be able to drive to your contacts has never been easier. However, the attention's very, very difficult to grab. Everybody's getting, ever since I started Usercentrics, I'm getting about 5 or 6 or 7 different opportunities to jump on every single day. So it's hard, right? So the challenge has been how do we, the challenge is businesses still need to buy products, marketers still need to sell products, but now it's getting lost in the noise. So the challenge is, how do we siphon out that noise to ensure that we're actually targeting customers that actually care, or target customers in a deeper, more sort of like connected way. And that's where the idea of only marketing towards customers that have consented their data towards you gives you that deeper level. So that's kind of the challenge we're trying to solve right now. And for me, what I'm interested in here is just opening up this another industry within this industry, this deeper level of connection, like within this whole.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. If you look at that then, like in terms of, you were saying about, standing out and stuff, do you see any place in, like, kind of, a lot of people talk now about the creator economy? You touched on it there as well
Yeah.
previously. In the company that where you are in, you were enabling them to sell their products and stuff. When you look at B2B, do you see that as kind of an opportunity for B2B brands as well?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that, because it's something I'm quite passionate about. So when we were at Teespring Spring, it was amazing. 15 million creators. Some of these YouTube creators would have 20, 30 million subscribers, and they'd get hundreds of thousands of views. And sometimes they weren't able to sell any product, right? Then you've got really niche creators that might have 50,000 followers, right? They might have 2,000 views per video, and they would sell. Now, the reason, intimacy and the connection they have with the audience. There's a belief, there's a shared opinion, but there's a whole sort of like culture and connection that's built through that connection. And it's amazing. And it just really pops off. It's very monetized.
Yeah.
So I think what we're seeing quite a lot of is successful business owners and successful marketers now are creating a presence on LinkedIn and creating content that resonates with their ICP. So they're getting blasted by all the outbound that's coming towards them. The outbound, it does well, will cut through. But if it's also backed up with the content, with the LinkedIn content, it hits a lot harder. And just sort of from my own experience, I was doing a lot of outbound last year, and I did notice an uptick in conversion when my LinkedIn content was on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The basis, trying to help my customers, my ICP go to market, and all the other pieces there. I did notice a significant increase in my meetings booked through
Yeah.
posting content that resonated every single day. So I think we're sleeping on it as marketers at the moment.
Yeah. And with your go-to-market then for Usercentrics at the moment, do you kind of have that playing through also as well?
Yeah, so I just started about 5 weeks ago, but we have got a thought leadership program going. So I did my first interview with the team, and we're going to begin posting that hopefully next week, and that's going to align with some of the marketing we're doing as well.
Interesting. And would you look at that then with thought leader ads then as well, or is it more like an organic play?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's important to the ads as well. I think it's really important to be everywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
Be everywhere, but in a really sort of respectful and value driven way as well.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
we believe that the message that we're trying to say is going to be valuable to a certain piece of the market, which we do, which is why we're in business, we want to make sure they've got the best chance of seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. If anyone then, in terms of any challenges that you see in that space of thought leadership, like I know that some people would say like the creator space, yes, it's a key thing, but if you have like kind of creators that you're working with, and then let's say it's whether it's internal or whether it's external, and then they leave and they go on to another company because of all the attention that they're getting. Some brands say that that's a risk. Some argue now, well, it's an asset because you're already going to benefit from it when they grow and stuff. But what do you see in that space?
The risk being that the employees of the business become so popular that other business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that there's some leaders are kind of like cautious about that.
Really, that's interesting. I hadn't actually heard that one before. I would actually be really interested to see that play out, because I think it shows then that this is like a channel that actually works.
Yeah.
Right? No, I think all power to them. I think as leaders within the business, we need to do what we can to develop the rest of the team as well. So I think it's a significant way to be able to help another person raise their profile, because it can be nerve-wracking posting content.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I think once it starts the effect, and then people kind of can join in then
It's hard to
relatively
start
quick.
though. I remember when I first started, I was getting all the texts from my mates making fun of me, and once you're able to put that aside and refine your content, because it's never good at the beginning.
Yeah.
Refine content, then you're able to kind of feel proud of what you're doing.
Definitely. Chris, if anyone wants to find out more about Usercentric and about you, the content that you post, the thought leadership that you're going to promote on in the next weeks, where can they find you? Where are you most active? LinkedIn, I presume, but anywhere else as well?
Yeah, so I'm active on LinkedIn. I think I'm possibly the only Chris Elsheikhi Well, I think I am the only on LinkedIn anyway. So you can find me there, Chris Elsheikhi. I'm sure my spelling will be out.
Perfect. I will. I'll put your details in the show notes as well. And about Usercentrics as well, I guess I'll put the website details, but
Yeah,
any events
Usercentrics.
or anything that's coming up that would be interesting to mention.
So, usercentrics.com, that's us. Look at our YouTube as well. We've got
Perfect.
so what I love about Usercentrics is the product makes sense, right? It's a market
Yeah.
we're very excited about, but our core ICP is marketers, and we create some really, really amazing top of funnel brand campaigns, really, really funny ads. So I'd recommend checking them out. We've got a new one coming out in about a month. But
Okay.
we've had about 4 that came out last year, all very funny, all very different take on how we're trying to drive value for our customer base. So yeah, I definitely check out our ads.
Great. Yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes as well to the YouTube channel. Chris, it was a pleasure talking with you today. Thanks very much for joining us on the show.
Not at all, Marcus. Thank you.
Great speaking with you. Thanks.